For more on all things politics, we turn to Philip Bump, national correspondent at the Washington Post. Philip, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Let's start with Syria, as we was just reporting, because we have some confusion here, it seems, between the president and the State Department as to what's going to be happening in Syria.
Right. So President Trump, as fairly true to form at a campaign-style event this week, said essentially he's going to withdraw troops from Syria. The Post reported yesterday, actually, that he had some conversations. He'd spoken with Defense Secretary Mattis. He had asked for a plan for that withdrawal to be drawn up. It's interesting, though, because he had consistently criticized President Obama for having left Iraq too early and creating space for the Islamic State. And some of the concern, apparently, within the Defense Department is that by withdrawing from Syria, you again create a vacuum into which either the Islamic State could step or give more space to Russia. And so when the President Trump says we should let others take over in Syria, take control of what's going on there, he said on the campaign trail, we should just let Russia deal with Syria. So it's not really clear who he intends to actually fill that void, but it's clear that he's not happy that we're there.
I mean, is there a sense that he's just okay with handing over the keys to Russia and Iran on Syria at this point?
It's hard to say, but I mean, he said that explicitly on the campaign trail. He said, why are we dealing with this? Why can't we just let Russia deal with this? And so, you know, it's obviously we can't always take everything he said on the campaign trail and apply it to his presidency, but it's not clear. And I think that one of the points that is worth repeating is that normally when a president is making an announcement about something to the scale of we are withdrawing troops from a place where we are, you know, participating in supporting combat operations, it's not done sort of on the cuff at a rally and leaving, for example, the State Department somewhat caught off guard.
Speaking of Russia, which we were just talking about, we of course this week had a major tit-for-tat diplomatic war with the Russians, and we now have a new national security advisor, John Bolton. What difference do you think that's going to make in foreign policy at this point?
So Bolton's track record, as probably most people are aware, is that he is much more hawkish than a lot of folks who are within the foreign policy infrastructure. That doesn't mean that we're going to rush into war with Russia, but it may mean that he is advocating within the administration for firmer steps than what we've seen so far. There's a lot that can be done. You can apply more direct sanctions to Vladimir Putin and his allies. You can apply sanctions to the energy industry. We could do some of the same sorts of cyber meddling that we believe they did during the 2016 election. There's a lot that can be done. It's not clear if Bolton will be advocating for that within the White House, but the big picture question, the overarching question that has always applied to our interactions with Russia since January 20th, 2017 is what President Trump himself wants to do. And he's always shown reticence to take any firm action, so it's going to be interesting to see if that changes.
Fascinating to hear about the EPA Pruitt story,
right.
Exactly where he stayed. Where is that headed? What do you think is going to happen with that?
That's a great question. I mean, we've seen other members of this administration who have faced the boot for such things. Tom Price, who's former head of the Department of Health and Human Services, took all those expensive flights and ended up losing his job. But Pruitt has really been one of the people in the administration who has driven really hard on what Donald Trump wants to see, which is rolling back a lot of environmental regulations, creating the space for the energy industry within the government. He's the head of the EPA, and it's been infuriating to a lot of environmentalists. A lot of environmentalists would be very happy to see Scott Pruitt gone. I'm not sure, though, if Donald Trump is going to take a hard line with Pruitt simply because he's been so effective at doing what Trump wants him to do.
Fascinating week. There's always so much more to get to, Philip. We could talk all morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Philip Bump.